Mr. Paul Netscher, how are you?
Good, thank you, Dom.
I'm glad to have you with me. I hesitate to ask without doing the math. What time is it where you are?
Well, it's 9 a.m. on the next morning, so we one sleep ahead of you.
You're one sleep ahead of you. Yeah, I think from doing my research on you and from our pre-call, I'm pretty sure I'm always going to be playing catch up with you, so it's appropriate. You're in Australia.
In Perth on the western side of Australia. So
Wow.
Australia is a pretty big country, not quite as big as Canada, but from Sydney on the other side to Perth, where I am, is a 5-hour flight. So
Yeah, it's a long way. It's a long way. Well, I'm glad you're with us. And actually, let me start with this, Paul. I mean, I know quite a bit about you because I found you from your Amazon book reviews, which are stellar. You've got a lot of fans out there in the construction and trades industry. But Paul, can you tell us who you are and why you would be speaking to a group of construction and contracting professionals around the world?
yeah, Don, thanks. I've got 30 years of construction experience and went to universities. I was a civil engineer by training, and then started off with a construction company, started off at the bottom like most people do, and from ran my own section and eventually became a project manager running my own projects. Fortunately, I joined a good company that was growing at the same rate I was growing. So I moved up the ranks. The company got bigger, more opportunities, and I eventually became a project director looking after multiple projects. And eventually I became a general manager or of my own division, which was mainly civil engineering. But our company did multiple various projects. I've worked in roads, heavy concrete work, buildings, luxury houses, casinos, shopping malls, water treatment plants, bridges, and I've done sort of everything, and over the years been involved in over 120 projects. So
Oh, wow.
10 years ago, I moved across to Australia with a company. We bought a small company in Australia. I stayed there for a while, moved on to a couple of other companies. And I thought, I should have said I was in South Africa originally, and that's where I was born.
Some people may not be able to tell the difference in accents, which, shame on us, but Australians and South Africans will say, well, he's got kind of a cross between both.
Yeah. So, yeah. And eventually I got tired of looking at the yellow machines, and which I always enjoyed working with, but you reach a day when you sort of had enough. But what I'd found was that I thought Australia was going to do things better than back in South Africa, and I soon learned that construction faced the same challenges, and that was the lack of skills. So I've always enjoyed mentoring and sharing my knowledge with people, and a lot of the people that have worked with me I've brought up through the ranks, and some of them started off as young site engineers and eventually became project directors and directors of companies. So and people that started off on the tools have gone through the process and become foremen, etc.
So you've mentored and trained a lot of people, and actually that's one of the things that drew me to find out more and reach out to introduce myself to you and have you on this show, because one of the things that I have found really consistently is that as people are growing in their contracting business, time management seems to be a critical constraint. It's just a constant thing that's biting at their heels or that they're struggling with. And this is where I first ran across your book. You've got so many of them. The one I ran across was called "Successful Construction Project Management: The Practical Guide," and that's where I started to dig in a little more to your view on meetings and on how to manage your time. So, what can you tell us about project management and time management? Managing your time as a professional in the trades.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. my books are particularly focused on the soft skills. Those are the things that aren't taught at universities and trade schools, etc. And people forget that project management is made up of two words, and the management is the word they actually forget about. They need to manage people, they need to manage time, manage resources, even manage the clients sometimes. So the management skills I find are lacking around the world. And the world, it's interesting, since writing my books, that I've got comments from all around the world, and the same comments come up is the lack of skills, and particularly the lack of project management skills. So time management, so many times you visit a project and the project manager's running around and he's got a phone glued to his ear and he's answering questions and he never seems to have enough time. He's fighting fires and crises and etc. So to start off with time management, I think it starts off with employing the right people, and particularly as company managers, it's about employing the right people. And a good person, I like to say, is worth their weight in gold sometimes, because they do work right first time. They do good work. They a good ambassador to clients, and they actually can create money for the company, where a mediocre person actually takes time to manage and to and they make mistakes which have got to be cleared up. So employing good people is important.
What do you look for when you hire people? Are you looking for high levels of skill? Are you looking for the right attitude? Are you looking for experience, like bang down the line? This guy did civil concrete. We need civil concrete. I only want a civil concrete person.
Look, the right skills are important, but you can also teach skills. You want someone that you can rely on, that you can trust to get on and do the job properly. So, and so often people employ someone because that's the person you can afford. But you need to employ someone that you need and that you can trust, obviously, and that wants to learn, because construction is a learning experience, and I can learn today 30 years later. So the person's got to be willing to learn, and not, well, that's the way I've done it for the last 20 years and that's the way I'm going to do it.
That's the only way I'm going to do it. Attitude, and I hear this consistently on the show here. I get the pleasure of interviewing people like yourself, and that answer keeps coming up consistently, is that we're really looking for people with the right attitude. You said somebody you can trust, somebody's going to, somebody I can believe in. That has more to do with attitude than their ability to read a set of plans. Obviously, the skills need to be there, but you can get somebody with great skills and a horrible attitude, and that's just going to cost you money, time, and heartache.
Look, if you've got an electrical company, obviously you're not going to hire someone with civil experience, because you want someone, or vice versa, So the skill is important, and the knowledge, but it's an ongoing learning process.
Yeah. What else can we learn from you about time management for the owner or project manager of a?
Well, it's pointless if you've got the right people and you don't delegate. So many contractors are poor delegators, and I cover it in several of my books, delegation, and it's probably a topic, if you haven't covered already, we could almost cover in a whole hour, because so often delegation is done poorly. I always hear excuses for why people don't delegate work, like, it'll take longer to show him or show her how to do the job than if I just do it myself. Or, of course, the common answer, reply is she is useless. Well, are they really useless? Do they appear useless because you haven't shown them what to do, or you haven't explained it properly? Have you actually told them that they need to improve? So many people think that they're doing a good job, and when they're actually not, when you give them feedback, constructive feedback, it's amazing how they can improve. Of course, some people are just plain useless, no matter what you do or how you show them. But then why are they working in your company? You can't get sentimental about people, and particularly, company owners who've grown a company and they started off with one or two guys. And after a while, as the company gets bigger, there's some people who might need to fall by the wayside. They've kind of reached their sell-by date, and it's a hard decision.
It is a hard decision, and it's difficult, especially when you've been there in the trenches, maybe with those first one or two people, and they've grown with you. And 10 years later, I would have a lot of trouble letting those people go that were with me from the beginning. But maybe our business is different, and they're not right for that size or the style of work that we do or the type of customer that we deal with.
Absolutely.
Needed when we were a scrappy startup.
Yeah. So delegation, as I said, we can talk a lot about delegation, and people delegate, but often they do it poorly. A delegation of responsibility doesn't mean abdication of responsibility. Often I asked a project manager working for me, do this, I'm looking for this information, and a week later I'd phone him and say, I still haven't got the information. And he would tell me, I asked my engineer to get the information and he hasn't got back to me. Well, that's not effective delegation, you need to follow up.
Right. And Paul, just because some people may not understand this, we talked about delegation is different than abdication. But abdication, you and I think understand it, but let's define that a little bit more. What does abdication look like at the job site in the construction field?
Well, it's handing over something to somebody and not following up. The follow-up process is very important to say, have you done this and how are you doing? Of course, as I said, delegation, we can talk much further on it about does the person have the knowledge to do it? Are they the appropriate seniority to do it? Are you actually giving them, asking someone to make you a cup of coffee is not delegation.
No, that's just a favor.
If they're a project engineer, so.
But abdicate. So this is interesting, and the reason that I'm sticking on this one is because I'm asking the listeners to look hard inside themselves for a second. If I've been delegating to John, and John's not coming back with what I've asked to be done, I might have made it so that I'm abdicating to him. I'm just pushing something that I want to do off to him, but I'm not supporting John. I'm not asking him if he's stuck. I'm not anticipating some challenges he might have. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm delegating to him. It could be make a call to the inspector. But if I abdicate it by not saying who the inspector is, what our expectations are, what time we need him, I'm setting John up for failure. And so we have to look at ourselves first. And I think that's where you're going here is I've got to be like, I have to delegate right. Can't just push it on.
Absolutely. So delegation, a lot of construction people just don't delegate for all those excuses that I said, that the person's useless, it's going to waste my time to show him how to do it, etc. Or it's done poorly with little follow-up, it's inappropriate, the wrong person's given it, or the person's not given all the information to go with it.
Yeah. Do you find that communication skills are strong or lacking or somewhere in between in the construction industry?
I think a lot of the problems in construction start with poor communication. And and again, that's a whole topic on its own, which I do cover in my books. And the communication is both verbal and written. And it's amazing how badly people write things in emails, and in that, they don't even do the basics like a spell check and grammar check, and some emails and letters I get are literally unreadable.
Yeah, Paul, I hope you're not talking about me, because I can create spelling mistakes very efficiently and very quickly. I'm a great speller, but I'm a horrible typer. However, even I look at some of my emails and I'm embarrassed after I look at them when I've misspelled some of the worst words. And that's for another story, Dom's misspellings. However, those can really have an impact on the client, because if the client reads something that's not worded properly or sounds disrespectful, it can set that relationship off on the wrong path fast.
Yeah, so as I said, in most of my books, I cover emails, letter writing, and verbal communication, setting the tone. And construction is a melting pot of different people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different economical and social backgrounds, and you need to understand that and be able to work with different people from a wide variety, whether it's that banker who comes visits your site in a suit and tie, to the person who can hardly speak English on the site. He's barely started construction. He's new in construction. He comes from a poor background, possibly hasn't even had breakfast that morning,
Yeah.
And you need to be able to work with everybody.
Yeah, it's tough situations.
And communicate with them.
And communicate with everybody consistently across the board. It's not easy. It seems easy, but it sounds easy, but it's not. So when I look at project management, I see people who are, like you'd said, the cell phone is welded to their ear.
Yeah.
They've got their work boots on, they've got a clipboard in their hand, they're taking notes like mad, but they feel pushed around by the world. What would you do if I was in that scenario?
Well, I think a lot of time management comes from planning. You need to plan the job, your project properly. And when I say planning, I'm not talking about the project construction schedule or program, whatever you call it, which is important. But it's the day-to-day planning. You need to actually stop in the morning and say, what do we have to do today? Okay. Does the team know what we got to do today? What have we got to do tomorrow? Okay, we want to pour concrete in that base tomorrow. So what have we got to do today so tomorrow's event can happen?
Yeah.
And then you've got to think a little bit further and say, what do we need to do next week? So what must we do today so that we're ready next week? So today I must order the concrete for next week, or I must check that we're going to have a crane on the project for next week, or we need to fix the Rio and get extra steel fixers or carpenters onto the job, so we make sure that we're ready for the concrete next week. Yeah. And so often, I see project managers, and I call them firefighters. I've had guys who brilliant firefighters. They can solve any problem. But why are you solving the problem? You're supposed to be preventing the problem. Yeah. I say to people, you need to be fire prevention officers, not firefighters. So you need to prevent the issue arising. So why are you on the phone, phoning a supplier, hassling him to get materials to your site because it's now critical? It's probably because either you forgot to order them last week, or whenever you should have done, right, or you've run out of materials because you ordered the wrong quantity, or yeah. So there's a number of reasons. And can you prevent those fires? Because solving a problem takes much longer than preventing a problem, because you've run short of materials, so now you've got to move people who were doing that job. You've got to move them someone else. You've got to phone the supplier. Can we get the material? You've got to get on your knees. You've got to beg them. You've got to then arrange transport for it, and it's about 4 phone calls and it could take half an hour, whether if you'd ordered the right materials to arrive at the right time, it might have been a 5-minute operation. So why is that project manager always on the phone? Yeah, it's probably because he's fighting fires.
Right. So if I was a new project manager or a project manager who you saw some potential in, let's assume for a second you saw some potential in me as a project manager, how would you get me to structure my day? And what I mean by that is, would you say, Dominic, spend 10 minutes planning your day? Or would you, what would be the big, the most impactful things I could do to make myself an effective project manager?
Well, the first thing is to have a good filing system. And when I say filing system, I'm also talking about on computers,
Right.
So deal with an email and file it in the correct place so that your inbox is not filled with 300 or 400 emails, and now you've got to scroll through them. Now, I'm sure I got an email from the client about that. Once you've dealt with it, put it into a box which is client correspondence,
Right.
and a correspondence from the subcontractors, etc. Paper filing systems, people spend so much time searching for documents because they're not filed in the right place, or the drawing or the bit of paper, they've taken out the file and then forgotten to put it back where it should have gone. So
neatness counts. Neatness counts, yeah. Right? Just like in school.
Organization counts.
Organization, yeah. Paul, we see that same thing happen. I can think specifically of some guys in the cabinetry trade. They'll get a set of plans, and on the plans it calls for a heavy base unit. But then what happens is the guy that nests the plans will call it something else. He'll call it the let's say the podium base. And then as they're starting to build it, they'll call it the end cap base. And now it's impossible to track back when the client says, where's the heavy base, or the heavy base is off by 1/16.
Yeah.
You can't, it's impossible to untangle that over time. Not impossible, but very difficult. And so having that consistent naming throughout is really important to keeping the job going smoothly.
Yeah, that's why it's important to set up the filing system at the start of the project. In the old days when we were all paper, we'd set up 10 files or whatever in our cupboard. Those files would be empty, but they would have a name on it. They would have dividers inside it. And when we get subcontract correspondence, it's going into that file. When we get correspondence from the client, it's going in that file, So right. Set it up. And of course, if you've got a company, it's a good practice to have the same filing system across the whole company. So you can number it and say, well, client correspondence is file 01, and everybody has it in that. And in that file, you might have a correspondence in and correspondence out. And of course, in the electronic format as well. On computers. So a good file management system is number one. Number two, we discussed the planning, and it's day-to-day planning. And I know project managers are always rushed and trying to do 10 things at once, but you really need to take 10 minutes out of your day to sit back or stand at the highest point if you've got a big project and have a look at what's going on, in the project. The third thing I would say is take a notebook with you. And I know that's sounding archaic, but I mean, it doesn't have to be a paper.
I love it.
You don't have to have a paper notebook, but I think I could write a little bit faster because I'm not used to typing on a smartphone, but the new generation can do that, because so often you're on a project and you get a phone call and, oh, yes, you want me to organize that for next week. And then you forget about it. If you've just got a notebook just to write down, organize a steel for Monday, then when you get back to the office, and particularly at the end of the day, you can flip through the notebook and say, oh, I forgot that, I need to do this. And you can also order it into priorities. This is the most urgent, so I need to do that. And of course, the most satisfying part of it is to cross the items off at the end of the day. I've done that, I've done this, and I've done that.
Nothing feels better than crossing things off the list. It's amazing that you say get a notebook, and I'm just for the people who are watching this on YouTube, here's my notebook. These are from the dollar store. The inserts that go into this are from the dollar store. We're not talking about anything expensive, but I completely agree. You have to have a bound notebook. Yeah. And a notebook gives me more flexibility. I can't talk on the phone and take notes on my phone at the same time. Yeah. But with a notebook, I can scribble. I can tear a page out if I need to. I can write notes. I can move things around. I can refer back to it later. And most importantly, and now twice in my business life, my notebooks have been called on by my lawyers when things went south too fast. And they said, well, Dominic, do you have record of having that conversation with Paul and what was said and what the actions were? And I'll say, yeah, I have it in the notebook. I'll give them the notebook and then I'll take a picture and do those things. That argument goes away when the other side is saying, you never told us, we didn't talk about it. I can't do that with Post-it notes. I can't do that with slips of paper. It only works in a bound book.
Yeah, it is one of the things, diaries that are discussed in my claims book, or change orders, as you talk about it, because documentation is so important, and not forgetting that the other side can also summon for your diaries or your foreman's diary and say, well, I want all of the documents, and I want to see all of the documents, which might include, as I say, the people working for you, and to see their diaries.
Yeah. Paul, for people who aren't watching the video, you just held up a book called Construction Claims, which in Australian language is the same as change orders. You've got an amazing, thank you. It's called Construction Claims. And what's the subtitle? A short
guide for contractors, because it's not overly legal. I've gone through the basic stuff, which includes documentation, what you can claim for, when you can claim for it, and putting your change order together. So, so many people, we due the money for the client. Well, you're not due the money from the client until you can prove you due the money from the client. And just because you say I'm due the money doesn't mean you're going to get it. You need to have the supporting documents. You need to have the presentation in a logical format, and there has to be supporting proof. You have to have approval from the client. The client has to be aware. Change order management is actually one of the places that we find profit leaks in construction companies. And I know this isn't the topic of today, but I'm glad you have that book there. So for people listening, Paul's got an amazing scope of work that has been written specifically for the construction industry, which, Paul, this is how I opened. That's why I invited you on the show. You've got more positive reviews on such a wide selection of books. It's pretty amazing. So anyways, I'll just to tell people, go look up Paul Netscher on Amazon, or find his link through my, through the website, and go back and look at him. There's a lot here, Paul, a lot here. Sorry, let's go back to time management, and I'll let you do your concluding thoughts as we start to wrap things up. Look, emails also waste a lot of time, and because people, they get an email, they must look at it straight away. That means they're interrupting what they doing. Look at it, I'll deal with it later. Look at the emails when you've got time to deal with it properly. And again, emails is a whole subject on itself, and that we could talk about. I think importantly for business owners is pricing the right project, which is also another subject. But so many business contractors, they take the shotgun approach and they fire off and price as many projects as possible and hope they'll land one. Well, pricing the projects takes time, and getting the wrong project also takes time. Some projects to manage take a lot more time than others, because they're possibly more complex. They've got difficult clients, Well, they've got disorganized clients, and you're always chasing them for information, etc. So you really need to get a bit more choosy about what projects you price, and then put the effort into landing the right project.
Yeah. And Paul, sorry if I can interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
I just want to remind our listeners what Paul was just talking about is when you guys hear me railing on about know your ideal client, know who your perfect client is. So for instance, if you're a roofer and you specialize in flat roofs, just bid on flat roofs. And if you specialize in high peak roofs, steep angled roofs, you understand that that's a different subset of the business, and focus on that. If that's your ideal client, you know how to do that job, you know how to make money at that job, you know how to estimate it, you know how to bring it in on time and on budget. And that's what Paul's talking about here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
But even, it's who the client is, because so many jobs go south because you're working for the wrong client. As I said, client who's disorganized, and of course the worst case, a client who doesn't pay you. So understand your client.
Yeah, I would. It happens so many times. You when you're in business for yourself, you don't have to take every job that's in front of you. And if you find a client that's not your ideal, it's a pain.
So maybe in closing to say, you need to learn to say no, and not necessarily no in a rude way, but it's good to be helpful, but sometimes taking on extra tasks or responsibilities or accepting unrealistic deadlines will impact your current work. So don't overpromise and underdeliver, and I'm sure you said that many times to your audience. And I'm sure, Dom, you've taken on things that you wished you'd said no to.
Yeah, I think we all have. And the key is learn from it and not do it in the future, right? Not all jobs are the same. Not all owners are the same. One of the challenges we see is, and you might not find this as much at the civil and the institutional and industrial type of contracting, but definitely in the residential side, is that people aren't active in their marketing. And so they'll say to me, Dom, we've built this entire business on referral and word of mouth. Yeah. And I'll say, well, that's great. And then they'll say a couple minutes later, we have horrible clients. We're dealing in the worst part of town. People don't pay. And Paul, you know where I'm going with this, right? Those two answers, they haven't cross-referenced the two answers. Well, you're getting business by word of mouth and referral from people who are lousy clients. And that's because you're running your business. You're not running it on purpose. You're not marketing in the best area to the right kind of clients for the right kind of jobs. And when you get proactive about running your business, then you can start to change. You could change. It's not a reach. It's not a stretch to say you're going to change your life, because you stop dealing with the bad clients, the bad payers, and the bad part of town. I actually had a painter who said, I asked him, I said, what's the best part about working at a nicer part of town? And he goes, Dom, my truck doesn't get broken into anymore. Because he was used to dealing in a rough part of town.
One kind of project that we priced, it was to do cooling towers, and it was a box-like structure. It looked simple to do, and we lost a fortune. We did another one, and we lost a fortune. Eventually, it did take 3 goes at it before I said, we're not pricing that anymore. And they come up regularly. We can't do them. We can't do them for the price of the competitors. Let them lose money if they want to lose money. But if a client brings that to us, sorry, we're not pricing it, or we're going to make our price so expensive that they're never going to use us. So.
What was the red herring in that simple box structure? What was the thing that made it go off? Was it the substrate it was built on? Was it the...
No, I can't tell you the answer today. If I knew that answer, I would have been pricing.
Oh, I thought it was confidential.
Right,
okay. I thought it was confidential and you couldn't say.
No, it's a square box concrete structure with walls, but some of the walls didn't go to the ground, so they started up in the air and then had a roof on it. Okay, it did have the typical small flume at the top of it, but that was actually the easy part that I'd learned tricks to build that anyway. But So the difficult part we could do easily, and the easy part we made difficult, or we lost money on it.
And all you could do is learn, right? Hey, speaking of learning, Paul, I've so enjoyed our interview, and thank you for taking the time. Because until I reached out, you and I had never met, but I just saw your great reviews. Can you tell us how we'd find out more about you or find one of your books?
Well, the easiest way to see the books is on Amazon, and I'm not promoting Amazon, but on Amazon, you can look inside the books, and particularly you can view the table of contents. You can't view the whole book on Amazon for free, but you can kind of get a gist of what the book's about. Then you can, obviously on Amazon, you can get the book in paper or Kindle or ebook. You know, you don't need a Kindle to read an electronic version of the book.
Right.
And or any other online bookstore that you can order the book from, or even your local bookstore. You can go to them and say, please order this book for me. They're not necessarily going to have it in stock, but they can order it. Yeah. I've got a website, and I publish articles on a weekly basis. So there's two blog pages on that website. One is for the home builder, and that's more for the client home builder, the average Joe in the street who doesn't know too much about construction. And the other one is on project management. And there's an index page to both of those, so you can easily hone in on an article that interests you, and see it. So on that website, all my books are featured as well with reviews, etc. So it's a one-stop shop. So,
Paul, what's the name of your website where you have the two blogs?
So it's www, and then it's pn-projectmanagement.com.
So PN as in your initials, Paul Netscher.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And
project
then
management.
a dash, not an underscore. What do you call it there? Hyphen or?
Yeah, we call it an underscore. Oh, no, you don't want that. You want a dash or a hyphen, right?
A dash or a hyphen.
Yeah. And we'll be able to find this through my website, where it'll be in the show notes. People can see it there. And then again, Paul, maybe we should spell your last name in case somebody wants to look it up directly from Amazon.
Yeah, because that's sometimes the easiest way to find the books on Amazon is to put in the name. So it's Netscher, which is Netscher.
Wonderful.
So it's a bit like the school that's got a silent C in it there. So it's.
We'll find you. Are you on LinkedIn, Paul?
Yes. So anybody who wants to connect on LinkedIn, by all means, I regularly post articles on LinkedIn and links to interesting topics that I've seen on various news items. So anybody who wants to connect with me is welcome, as long as they've got a regular profile that looks like it's not a made-up profile.
It has to look normal. That's right. Well, Paul, thank you so much for joining us. I guess we have to you're already in the future. You're so far ahead of us, you're a day ahead.
Yeah.
Except for
thanks for having me, and hopefully we've added to a little bit of knowledge to listeners, and that's what it's all about, is sharing knowledge and experience. And as I always said to the people that work for me, I don't want you to be as good as me. I want you to be better than me, because I've made the mistakes, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I made. So you've got a head start. You've got to be better than me, not just me.
Not just me. Yeah. Wow, that's a good lesson, and it shows a little glimpse into your management style. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Maybe we'll have you back one day in the future as well. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, stay on the line a sec. We'll have a chat, but thanks everybody for checking in, and we'll talk to you all soon.